Before him, little was known about the concept of Africanism. With his efforts and others that came before and after him, Jamaica is not only known for reggae music, but also the birth of one of the greatest historical figures. This is the father of Pan Africanism, the life of Marcus Garvey. In the United States, he was a notable civil rights activist who founded the Negro World newspaper, a shipping company called Black Star Line, and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, a fraternal organization of black nationalists. As a group, they advocated for separate but equal status for persons of African ancestry, and as they sought to establish independent black states around the world, notably in Liberia on the west coast of Africa. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born on August 17, 1887, in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, to Marcus Garvey Sr. and Sarah Jane Richards. His father was a stonemason and his mother was a household servant. Though the couple had 11 children, only Marcus and one other sibling survived into adulthood. Garvey attended school in Jamaica until he was 14, when he left St. Anne's Bay for Kingston, the island's national capital, where he worked as an apprentice in a print shop. He later said he first experienced racism in grade school in Jamaica, primarily from white teachers. While working in the print shop, Garvey became involved in the labor union for print tradesmen in Kingston. This work would set the stage for his activism in later life. Garvey spent time in Central America, where he had relatives, before moving to London in 1912. While in Britain, he attended the University of London's Birkbeck College, where he studied law and philosophy. He also worked for Pan Africanism newspaper and led debates of Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, London, a famous spot in the city for public discourse even today. Garvey also began corresponding with Booker T. Washington, the African-American leader, author, and activist who had been born into slavery. In 1916, Garvey boarded a ship bound for the United States, where, as a dramatic and invigorating public speaker, he intended to go on a lecture tour. He ended up settling in New York City, where he first spoke at the famous St. Mark's Church before embarking on a 38-city speaking tour. He also took on work in a print shop to make ends meet. While in New York, he authored the Declaration of Rights on the Negroes People of the World, which was ratified at the convention of the Universal Negro Improvement Association at Madison Square Garden in 1920. It was during this meeting that Garvey was also elected provincial president of Africa. In many of his lectures, Garvey summarized his views on the rights of African Americans by noting, "The first dying that is to be done by the black man in the future will be done to make himself free. And then when we are finished, if we have any charity to bestow, we may die for the white man. But as for me, I think I have stopped dying for him." He also told members in the Universal Negro Improvement Association in 1921, "If you want liberty, you yourselves must strike the blow. If you must be free, you must become so through your own effort. Until you produce what the white man has produced, you will not be his equal." Garvey established the first U.S. chapter of the Universal Negro Improvement Association in 1917 in Harlem and began publishing the Negro World newspaper. Soon, his speaking engagements took on an angry note in which he questioned how the United States could call itself a democracy when across the country people of color were still oppressed. By 1919, he and his associates set up the shipping company Black Star Line under the auspices of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which by then had grown to include more than 4 million members. Not long after the Black Star Line had purchased its first ship, the SS Yarmouth, and rechristened it to the SS Frederick Douglass, the company began its African Redemption Liberia program with the idea of establishing a nation on the west coast of Africa for African Americans or those who were born into slavery or were the descendants of slaves. Garvey was married twice. His first marriage to Amy Ashwood, who was a fellow activist in the Universal Negro Improvement Association, ended in divorce in 1922. Later that year, Garvey married Amy Jacques, who was also active in social causes. The couple had two sons together, Marcus Mosiah Garvey III and Julius Winston Garvey. Because of his outspoken activism and black nationalism, Garvey became a target of J. Edgar Hoover at the Bureau of Investigation, a precursor to the FBI. The BOI began investigating Garvey on charges of mail fraud in connection with a brochure for the Black Star Line that included a photo of a ship before the company actually had a vessel in its fleet. Hoover, who referred Garvey as a notorious Negro agitator, even hired the first black FBI agent in 1919 to spy on Garvey. In 1923, after a controversial trial, Garvey was found guilty of these charges and sentenced to a maximum of 5 years in prison. He began serving his sentence at Atlanta Prison in 1925, and it is from there that he authored his famous paper, First Message to the Negroes of the World from the Atlanta Prison. In it he wrote, "After many enemies are satisfied, in life or death, I shall come back to you to serve even as I had served before. In life I shall be the same, in death I shall be a terror to the foes of Negro liberty. If death has power, then count me in death to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a cyclone or a plague or pestilence, or as God would have me, then be assured that I shall never desert you and make your enemies triumph over you." When he was released from prison in 1928, after serving 3 years of his sentence, Garvey traveled to Geneva, Switzerland, to speak to the League of Nations on issues of race and the worldwide abuse of people of color. A few months later, he returned to Jamaica, where he established the People's Political Party, the nation's first modern political organization. Its platform focused on workers' rights and the poor. In 1935, Garvey returned to London, where he lived and worked until his death at age 52. Garvey died on June 10, 1940, from complications brought on by 2 strokes. Although his legacy as a leader and activist lives on, Garvey's separatist and black nationalist views were not embraced by many of his peers. In fact, Du Bois said, "Marcus Garvey is the most dangerous enemy of the Negro race in America and in the world." His philosophy is perhaps best exemplified in the following quote: "We must canonize our own saints, create our own martyrs, and elevate to positions of fame and honor black men and women who have made their distinct contributions to our racial history. I am the equal to any white man. I want you to feel the same way."